Greetings. Patrick here. Have Cheetah will view 8 questions with. And I am joined today by English filmmaker Mimi Hatri.
Hello.
Uh,
Hello.
did I get it right? Hatri, right?
Yeah, Hatchery. Amina
Okay.
Hatchery.
Okay. Yeah, I went Mimi because I said I'll go with Mimi. I'll surprise her. I'll surprise her. Uh, welcome to the show. As you know, we're going to be talking to film director, producer Uwe Boll here in a few minutes. He will be here. We're glad that you guys are here. Super happy you're here. I'm just going to throw this out here. Not that I really need to, but I will anyway. We will be talking to Uwe Boll. We'll have a respectful chat. If you guys look around, there's a lot of blue looking at you. So if you think you want to be a troll and you want to make comments, don't. Don't. Um, we're here to have a good time. We're here to treat Yui with respect and kindness in our community. So that's what we're going to show him. We're not going to be trolling him or knocking him down on any way, any shape, or form. If you want to feel like you need to do that, go back to your channel. All right, that's how I had to say that. So I got that out of the way. And let me say hi to everybody. Everybody say hi to you, Mimi.
Hello.
I know. Maybe I should step out of this and let you take over the mothership here. Um, are you excited as a film director? Are you
Yeah,
interested in talking here?
I'm really excited to ask some questions about obviously the filmmaking side, director to director, and the producing side. But I'm also really interested to hear how he actually dealt with a lot of things and still had a long and successful career many years after making Raging Bull and all of the hounding. I guess that's every filmmaker's worst fear, right? So yeah, just having the strength and the willpower to carry on through that is quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mimi. I'm with you because I watched along with you. I watched the documentary Raging Bull, and and I thought it was very well done, and very fair. It wasn't a love letter to him. They laid it out. It's like the pros and the cons, and I know that he gets a lot of heat. Um, he gets a lot of heat for his movies and his attitude, but on the other hand, like you and I were talking in the pre-show, is it I don't know a single director. I don't know a single director, not one, that wouldn't feel the same way he did if they knew that every time they announced a project that it was going to get destroyed in the press or by all these self-styled basement critics. I mean, you haven't even filmed a single shot yet, and you got all these people already ripping on your movie. I just think it's just really unfair. Um, it's totally unfair. His movies are fun movies. They're entertaining movies. Uh, it's fun. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I've seen, and Echo knows what I'm talking about. Believe me, we've seen worse, a lot worse. Um, and I'm not dogging on anybody. I've watched these movies. I'm not just sitting there just saying that just to be, sympathetic to Yui or on his side or anything. I'm just saying from, like I've watched some really bad movies, and he's not even in the same zip code as them as far as he's a competent filmmaker. He's a good storyteller. I personally think his casting choices are some of the most fun. I mean, come on, he put Michael Madsen as a vampire hunter in a wig. I mean,
Well, I
how could
mean,
you not?
he also manages to generate quite huge budgets for films. So
Yeah, I definitely feel like yeah, he did. He got the big budget for Alone in the Dark. That was his biggest film. Um, and he went and he got a budget of $60 million. Today's
Was
world, that's
was
considered
was
that.
was that Alone in the Dark? I thought
Yes.
that was In the Name of the King.
Was that in the name of the king? Got 60. Oh yeah, that's right. You know, you're right. You're right. You know, in Alone in the Dark was 25 million. So Name of the King was $60 million. And I thought the casting choices in that was a lot of fun and daring. Um, part of it is you have to have major studio backing in order to get your movie seen. $60 million today, that's almost considered low budget. I think the low budget spectrum, if I'm not mistaken, maybe better than I think it's between 0 to 50 million is considered low budget in today's world.
Well, I'm not 100% in the mainstream. However, I know in independent filmmaking, anything under 100,000, I think, is considered an independent film, and then anything over that is kind of like a bigger budget. But maybe it is the lower end of a big budget. I'm just more used to the indie side.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until I started talking to some indie directors, and I heard that was the first time I've heard the term micro budget. And when I heard
Mm.
micro budget, I'm thinking that's like $3,000 to $5,000. That's a micro budget. And the filmmaker said, no, that's like $0 to $1 million. It's micro
Mm.
budget. $1 million is considered a
Yeah.
micro budget film. That's just so you imagine back then though when he made In the Name of the King. I mean, that was a massive undertaking. $60 million. He couldn't find a distributor for it. He tried. He tried very hard.
Mm.
Without the distributor, without the power of the studio behind him and their promotional team, his movie came and went in 2 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's just rough. That's rough.
A lot of
Y-
stress for sure, a
Yeah,
lot of stress.
and
And
again,
again to then carry on after that and to keep making movies continuously after that is quite admirable.
I think so too. And it's funny too. At that time where he came out with his movie, and you got to think about it now. Here in America, the studios have come to the point now where when they make their movies, including the big budget ones like the Marvel movies, the Star Wars movies, or whatnot, the Fast and the Furious, um, you you try to break even here domestically. If you have a budget, most movies are like 200, 220 now. You try to break even stateside. Like, okay, I'm going to make our production budget back here with the box
Mhm.
office here in America, and then take the movie out internationally and make your profit there, especially China. If you go out there and you pop out and you get a good, you make your money in China, that's where you get, you make money. Even if it's not necessarily a good film, but you at least have a chance to make money. And
Mm.
back when Uwe was making his films, I do not believe the China market was open to anybody at that time. So, you think about In the Name of the King when it came out here, maybe it took a beating, maybe it got $14 million. But then
Mm.
what happens if he would have been able to take it over to China? What if he could have broke even? Then we're not saying anything. We're saying, okay, well, maybe he didn't make a lot of money, but at least he didn't lose a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Uh,
again, it's tough to find that audience, and yeah, getting the distribution help is definitely something that's kind of required, and that is very exclusive, um, which is a shame.
yeah, I agree.
But
Now
many
you've done
filmmakers all over the world, really.
now you did your short film, Aliens
Hmm.
versus God. Now that was very well received and very well done. Now, are you in the process now of gearing up to do your first feature film? Because last time we talked about your short, and
Hmm.
you were talking, we getting ready to do your feature film. Are you
Hmm.
where are you at? Where are you at for that?
So I have pretty much got the base, the foundations of my crew. I'm still trying to find a main producer, and we are started. We've got many like plans. The first script is done, and yeah, I just need to have initial meetings with my various different departments. The main thing that we're trying to do is a little fundraising campaign, so we can actually like a startup fund, because we do want to pitch it, and we do want to take it on to maybe like a horror production house. We're doing research into probably which avenue is the best for that, and yeah, we're getting ready to go in and pitch. Hopefully it won't take us longer than a year to actually start shooting.
Now, I'm going to ask you both this question. I mean, I'll get ask you this now, but when you would get your ask them too. But do you guys actually rehearse your pitches? Like, do you like take a few people inside of a room and walk in there and like if you grab me and Bones and Valerie and we set us down there, do you practice like you come to us three, we're your money people? Do you come up there and practice how you're going to do your pitch to them so you get an idea how it sounds?
Yeah, I think naturally you do it a lot. You practice it a lot when talking to even friends and family, because they're like, "Oh, you're doing this film, you're doing this project. Okay, cool. Pitch it to me. Go." And then naturally you kind of just pick it up more and more, and it's really good practice. Writing out little synopsises and like having a pitch and document really does help as well, because then it gets you to tell the story in a concise way. Sometimes when you're under pressure or you feel like nervous when you're pitching, you can fumble over your words and put in unnecessary bits to the story. So yeah, rehearsing is quite key.
All right. Our guests just walked through the basement, so we're going to go get them. So please welcome our special guest tonight, Uwe Boll. Let's go get him.
Hi.
Hi, Uwe.
Hello.
So it worked out after we sent so many links back and forth and so on. So it's all good.
I know the fur was flying. The fur was flying between Michigan and Germany, and it worked out though, and we're very happy that you're here. I'd like to introduce you to film director Amina Hatri, right above you. She's a filmmaker from the UK.
Good.
Yeah. I'm so happy you're here because I'm just going to tell you right off the bat to help you out a little bit. But so I'm a fan of your movies.
Good to know.
Yeah. I'm a fan. I have questions. I have a lot of questions. So
8. You said it's 8 questions. So, but you can ask more questions. It's all good.
More questions. More questions. We have questions. Plus we get the plus I'm sure Mimi will have a few too. As seeing that you guys are both directors, you guys both working behind the camera. I'm sure there will be some questions between the two of you. We do have an active chat here. We do have an active chat. Can you see our chat, Uwe? Can you see it?
Should I go on commentaries or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I see it. Okay, good. Yeah.
Good. All right. So we will also be doing a Q&A as well. So as the questions come up, we will start feeding them into you as we can. So yes, I guess the first thing. Oh, I'm supposed to give you a message. I was asked to give you a message today by a mutual friend, our friend Chris Alexander.
Yeah. The guy who was in the ring with me, in the boxing ring.
Yes. Yes. He said to say hello and give you his best wishes. All right. So, Uwe, wow. Where to even begin? I guess what are you working on right now? And then we'll get.
So we are in post-production of my film First Shift, police film I shot in New York in March with Gino Pizzi and Kristen Renton, Daniel Soli, Gary Pastore. So it's basically we follow two cops through one 12-hour shift they do in Brooklyn. And we have like episodes where like a drama with an old guy who has a heart attack and his dog is alone when he gets in the hospital. And so the cops have to basically rescue the dog. We have a mafia killing. So we have like this kind of, they're going from one disaster to the next one, basically. And it's sometimes sad, sometimes brutal, sometimes funny in a way. Yeah, so that was a film I basically did. I planned it a long time, but I never did it. And then I felt, okay, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. And then I made it happen, basically, that we could shoot that film. And we're in post-production now. So we edited it, and now it's all in the hands of the composer, Jessica DeRoy, who did a lot of my soundtracks, and a few like sound design, Walla, and all that stuff happens in Los Angeles. So yeah, and I'm in Germany, and I'm also in post-production now, not totally finished, of a documentary I'm shooting since 3 years about the motorcycle gang, the Banditos. So they are with the Hells Angels, like the biggest in the world, and I follow them for 3 years now. And it was a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of nerve-wracking experiences over the time, because there was a lot of people that didn't want that I make the documentary, and it was like inside the club were kind of a war. Then my main people got all jail terms during I was shooting, yeah. So, but I hope in 6 months, around 6 months, I will be done with that documentary too. And of course, it turned out totally different as I saw it before. Yeah. So it was interesting, because if you do a docu about a group like the Banditos, everybody wants it. But then everybody, like Netflix, everybody wanted it. But they all were A, scared, but B, also, they tried to make me directing it in a way. And I said, I cannot do this. I said, I can only follow them around. I said, like, I cannot make them say something for the camera. It's not the bullshit documentary show where you have some like wannabe actors being doing a docu, you know. And then I really learned that in the streamers change documentary now to something what is not good, because all the documentaries are only made now after the fact. Like when you see a Netflix docu, there are no surprises, because everything what they show you is basically filmed like a fiction film. It's not really following reality and then bringing reality on screen in the end. It's not the case. And they're very, very, let's say, not interested in a surprising documentary where you just follow an object. And I think that's very bad for documentary films in general, because when you see it, they're all like that 6-part, 4-part mini docu stuff, but it's all done about, they do the twists, they do cliffhangers in, and they fake it for the audience. I mean, you have to say it how it is, right? If you watch a typical murder mystery docu now on a streamer, they give you in the first episodes not all the infos. They just like want to keep you watching it, and then in the end, in the last episode, you learn, okay, that was the murderer. And if they gave me the info 5 minutes after the movie started, I would never watch that docu, because there was overwhelming evidence, but they never told us, you know, like that is what they do. Like they fake around murder cases so that the audience is watching all the episodes. And I personally hate that. I like documentaries. They actually document something what is real.
I think that, I know on our reality shows here, our so-called unscripted entertainment, so to speak, It's not. It's all scripted. I mean, a lot of what we see on our TVs. You're right. It is scripted.
It's like the
Even,
Datelines. I look, I love Dateline. Like it's a show I watch forever on NBC. But that was the first one. But they were always told in Dateline, you know how it unfolds, right? So they give you the infos, but step by step by step, and then the case is explained and whatever, the people go to jail or not. But now they all do only this. And I think that is a mistake. You remember the Edward Snowden doku where they went with him in the hotel room in Japan and everything, and when he escaped from the US and he went to Russia, they followed him with the camera. So that was a real documentary. That was a real documentary. It was not backed by anybody. It was just the Greenwald guy and the portrayers. So they did a real documentary, and you can live see how the Edward Snowden scandal unfolds, basically, right? So, and I think that are documentaries. They are like, wow,
no,
yeah.
it's I think that partly has to do with the slow degradation of journalism too. I mean, it's journalism today is not necessarily what it was. I mean, now it's a matter of sound bites and editorials and opinions. It's not just reporting the news; it's being part of the news, and they shouldn't be part of the news. So you're right. I mean, and old school documentary making is rare. It's rare indeed. I mean, especially anything like like a heavy subject, like covering a motorcycle club. That's do you find yourself now as shifting over to becoming more of a documentary filmmaker, or do you still have the passion for telling us a story, an action adventure film?
No, I want to make more features. So that wasn't I did only 2 or 3 documentaries in my life, basically, and I think I'm fascinated by something, and then I want to do it, and but I like more fiction films. So overall, and they also don't take so long. I mean, a fiction film overall from the planning to the final product is maybe 1 year. And documentaries totally depending on the subject. My problem was that I couldn't stop filming the thing with the banditos because in the middle of the shoot, they had like 110 SWAT teams storming 110 different locations and shut down the whole club in Western Germany and incarcerated people. So for the doku, of course, it's spectacular and very good, but at the same time, I couldn't reach anybody anymore. It was just like this kind of, the last thing they wanted to do in that phase of over a year is to talk to me. They talked to their attorneys, and the attorney said, you don't talk to the press, and I tried, of course, to tell them, look, I'm not the press. I'm just it's like I will never do something to hurt them. I just want to show what's happening. So I don't have an agenda. I did a documentary to trash the banditos. So I just wanted to see how is it really organized in a club like this? What are they actually doing? Are they all criminals or what? Right. So, and after 3 years, the answer is crystal clear. No. For me, the banditos and also the Hells Angels are not a criminal organization, but they have criminal people in their ranks, and they abusing also the protection of the club. I mean, who wants to start a fight with a Hells Angels or Banditos guy in a bar because you start the fight and then 50 people coming back and go after you. So that is this kind of brotherhood protection. And there are people abusing this, but the old school people, the old school members, they started it, as you know, after the Vietnam War. They founded the Banditos in Houston and the Hells Angels in Texas too, and they were all ex-veterans starting it because of Easy Rider, and they wanted to be free. They wanted to do not anymore work for the state or the country. They wanted to have their own rules because they had very bad experiences in the Vietnam War. And
Sure.
yeah, and then they were outlaws, the 1% are kind of outlaws. And society never hated them. Like citizens never really hated them, but the FBI and the law enforcement, they hate them because they live by their own rules, you know.
Do you find your let me ask you this question first, and then I'm going to ask you mine. We got our first question in from the chat. Patrick, please ask Uwe how he likes working with Edward Furlong. All right, that's a good question.
Yeah.
How did you like working with Edward Furlong?
I mean, Edward was in various of my films, you know. He was in Darfur, about the genocide in Darfur. He was in Assault on Wall Street, and he was in Stoic, a very intense film about a murder in a jail. And I mean, I cannot talk about Edward without feeling sad for him, you know, because he is a great actor. I worked with a lot of good actors, but he's a great actor. He really has the deepness, like to really carry a film, carry a scene, and so on. And whatever he plays, he's there, and he has a total presence, and he hits the point. So I love him as an actor, and he's a super nice guy. But he hopefully had only a big drug problem, you know. And we were also affected by it, shooting Assault on Wall Street and stuff like this. It was not so easy because you felt that he took the drugs in a way during the shoot, and that is not a nice situation for the other actors too, and stuff like this. So it was tough. You know, but as I said, like for me, he's one of the best actors I ever worked with, and I hope he has kind of a real comeback and gets his shit back together in a way and comes back, you know. So yeah.
Mimi, do you have a couple of questions, Mimi?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the documentary you were just making. Obviously, it's quite different. You're a director. It's quite different to a lot of the stuff that you've directed. How do you then, because you're following a real story, so how do you then direct your crew and keep your like wits about you to make sure you're safe, but also telling a true story and true representation of the banditos?
Yeah. So I had during the 3 years a lot of different camera crews, because we shot in Barcelona at the World Run. There were like 5,000 people, 5,000 banditos from around the world. And there I had a guy who is good with drones, for example, to fly over them, to, you know, stuff like this. So I had only the last 3 times I filmed more interviews, I had the same team. But I always told them, just do it like try not to do just a newscast thing, because there were more camera guys, not from fiction film. They were more like newscasters, right? And I said, I don't want this. I want it like that. It looks like theatrical kind of film. So let's do it in widescreen. Let's try to do slow handheld, but steady handheld stuff, you know? So I tried to make it a little fiction wise, like how it looks like, but we didn't have a lot of possibilities because we always had to catch situations, you know, when they're coming out of the courtroom and then they stop and give me like a minute, 2 minutes. Then we had, like, recently we had really long sit-down interviews in Berlin and in Würzburg in Bavaria, and that was for me the backbone of the docu, what I was chasing for 2.5 years, because I said, look guys, you talk to me here, I come here, whatever, but the reality is I need you sitting down in the interview for an hour. And I was able to do it in Berlin with 4 people and to do it in Bavaria with 4 people. And now I only want the boss of the thing. I have him a few times in short interviews, but I told him, look, because he has a jail term right now. And so he's very reluctant. He said, I just don't want to dig myself deeper in with an interview, right? So, and I told him, so what we're doing now is we do a rough cut, and then I will show him the rough cut and we'll ask him to do the interview right there. You know,
is the vice president locked up too?
We are not right now. They went when the judgments came. They went in appeal, right? So they're all out basically right now, waiting for the appeal. But if the appeal gets denied, they have to get right away into jail. So
Wow.
they are like every day, and they're waiting for the call of when they have to appear in court again for the appeal, right? In Germany, it's a little different. If you go in an appeal, it's not like in US that they do a full new trial. They basically look, only a different judge looks into the judgment and into the evidence, and he will basically judge this without further trial. He will say the judgment was correct, and that is 90% that this happens. He would just say the judgment was correct, report to jail, and 10% of the times they coming to a different conclusion, and then they basically lift the judgment, right? And say, then they call the attorney and say he's off the hook,
Okay.
So but it's different, because in Germany it's more written law, in US it's more case law. So, and like in US you always have to find a case where somebody got off the hook with this. In Germany it's all like written, basically, rules. And so if you find something in the law books in Germany what gets him off the hook and can say that judgment was just wrong, then he has a chance, So it all started, we're talking only about the banditos, but it all started with a banditos guy shot in Cologne in a Hells Angels bar through the window, like various times through the window. And then he ran away, like total typical bullshit between big motorcycle clubs. They have that old rival thing. But
I didn't even know you had that over in Germany.
Yeah,
when I was hearing you talk about this, I was actually looking at Mimi, and I'm looking over my wall, like, when did they go to Texas? But I didn't know that the Hells Angels and the Banditos were in Germany.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're in
UK as well.
Are they in the UK as well?
Yeah. They're in UK. They are in Scandinavia, very strong. They're in France, in Italy. So they're everywhere, in Thailand even. So and then the law enforcement used this as, okay, now we arrest them all. We do a full-on house searches in 110 addresses. We took the Harleys away. They confiscated 120 Harley Davidsons. They never gave them back since 1.5, 2 years to people they are not even in the lawsuit, right? But they made an example. And in the very end, the president only got jail he got only 2 years for illegal arms. Like he had like non-registered guns. So that brought in the jail penalty, but they had nothing else against him. They could not prove anything. And the shooter who shot, he admitted very early on of the trial that he did it. And he got 8 years or 9 years, and that was it. So he was out of the trial very quickly, but he said crystal clear, of course, he's not throwing his brothers under the hood. He said, I did it on my free will because I hated these guys, whatever. And he didn't actually, I think one guy was hurt, but there was nobody shot and dead or something. So it was just but of course, the state attorney said he tried to shoot everybody through the window. Attempted murder was the charge. So, and he was out of the trial. And then they trialed the German boss, the European vice president. They were all on trial. And it was okay, you're a criminal organization and everything. But in the very end, in the judgment, the judgments were very small jail terms, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, because they couldn't really find anything besides a few guns, right? So they couldn't really not prove the point here that they are the mafia. So, and and that is the situation right now. And I'm sure, because the reputation of the clubs is very bad, that they will also grill me with my docu, that they say Boll is defending the banditos. How can he do this?
No, you're not defending anybody. A documentary just lays it out.
Yes.
I mean, that's one thing. Do you agree with this, Mimi? I mean, when you're watching Raging Bull, you and I both watched it. I thought it was very even-handed. I thought it was, it wasn't one side or the other. It just told a story, and it let the viewer decide what to take out of it. Did you feel that too, maybe when you watched that?
I felt that it was obviously it was made 2010, right? And I felt that it was like quite relevant in the social commentary of even what's going on in the world around today. And you know, it so much is happening, and certain people do get targeted, whether it be by the media or whether it be by journalists, critics, and they don't actually understand the effects, or like that it's just it's almost like clickbait as well. It's not actually aligned with actually giving an opinion or constructive criticism, or something that's actually going to make the art form better, or you know, it's just sometimes just useless stuff. And to go as far as like death threats, it's a lot for one person to then take on, and to then be judged for various other art forms before they've even become discovered or before you've even made them. And I felt that the documentary itself, the style of it, it was almost like the format of what the kind of streaming services nowadays, Netflix, are going for, the really dramatic impact and get the message of what the documentary is about out there with a punch, without the whole running around for 8 seasons trying to get to the end where you realize that actually they don't have the answers at the end, you know. Yeah.
I thought it was very even. I agree with you. I think it was very even-handed. I think it was really well made, as far as that goes. And you know, I mean, coming out of it, that's, you know, do you think that making this documentary was it harder than making a feature film? I mean, you know, by the running around and you know, because you had to stay dedicated to it. It's taken you this long to do it. Do you feel like this has been your most challenging film project yet?
In a way, yes. In a way, no. Right. So, I mean, there were like, in a way, it's more intense to shoot a feature film in a shorter time, but it's very intense and sometimes more crazy or nerve-wracking. But it's definitely something time-wise where I spend way more time without pay, right? Because it's just kind of like, you just keep going yourself. You organize the camera crews, and I basically paid the whole thing myself. I found a post-production partner who is doing the editing and stuff like this as investors, what is good. And but I'm also somebody, I cannot not finish stuff. I have it in me, like, to not walk away from things. Like, so I felt like I just have to keep going and make that film, even if I have to wait till they're coming out of jail and it takes another year or two. So it's because I feel like there is something to tell about it, and that made me want to tell it. You know, I produced, for example, another docu, The Decline, about the drug problem, the fentanyl problem in Vancouver, where I lived for 7 years, and where I had a restaurant, and the restaurant was really there in Gastown, where you saw it growing, like the drug addiction, and you saw the homeless, and it growed and growed and growed, and it went completely out of hand. So, and I didn't direct it. I produced it. I had 2 younger guys. They went there and interviewed people and portrayed everybody. And they were basically, I told them, look, you are the directors. I will not like censor you, but I want that you see both sides. Because what happened in, you know, from San Francisco and stuff like this, when you have too many homeless and drug addicts in 5 blocks, it gets unlivable for the people that actually live there, you know, because then you basically step over dead bodies to get to your apartment. And that is the thing where society totally fails, because what always happens is what the city's doing, what they did in San Francisco also, is they have the free dispensaries or whatever, you get free drugs, safe injection sites, everything, but they always put that in 2 or 3 streets and don't spread it out everywhere. So you have like thousands of drug addicts in like 5 blocks. And so what is that? That brings nothing for the drug addicted to get them off the street, to get them housing, to get them anything, you know. And I think if you try to basically help them also with rehab, and in really also in real hospitals, and gives them housing and get them off the street first and get them off the drug second, you have a better chance that they really recover. You know, because what happened there was basically everybody who got free drugs also used illegal drugs additional. So you don't have really this kind. That is the reason in Vancouver are more dead people a year as in all of Germany on drugs in one city in Canada. So, and I think that is the reason. Like, it's like the idea we give them free drugs or methadone and stuff like this, and they will not take crack or fentanyl is a total illusion. It's a total illusion. It doesn't work. You know.
Do you think? I mean, I'm trying to connect this here. Let's see if I can do this. So, I mean, do you connect with what was going on? Like you mentioned, the Bandidos were not a criminal organization, but at the same time, people see them as that. Like they see San Francisco or Vancouver being, you know, all of a sudden drug havens. It's not really drug havens. It's just how it's worked out to be. You know. It wasn't intended to be, just like a motorcycle club. It doesn't on the surface, it never intends to be a outlaw gang. It just want to be a guys, like you said, people riding free. So, but you know, with the best of intentions, right? Like you go out and you know, with your best of intention, you try to go out there and make the best film you possibly can with the money you're doing. Okay, Bandidos the same way. They want to go out there, they want to ride, they want to do whatever they want to do. But and public perception has warped them. Now people see them as different, even though they're not. You know, even though they're not they didn't start out that way. But people's perception has warped them into this gang. The homeless people, everybody else has warped them into seeing them being addicts as, you know, not part of society. And on a much lesser scale, you know, when people mention that when they hear your name, when people hear your name, they immediately twist it to their own ends, which isn't the right thing to do. But that's that is what happens, you know, in society.
Yeah. I don't know why my phone rings here. Wait 1 second. I have to quick check. Wait 1 second.
It better not be the president of the Bandidos.
Hey, the phone is ringing here.
I don't know how we got to the homeless problem. That's interesting. We'll steer it back to the movie. Though it is fascinating. I mean, I won't deny that.
Yeah. Okay, it was nothing. So let's talk about the other movies. We don't only have to talk about the documentaries.
Okay, so I have one burning ass question for you. I've been saving this question for years. I always said if I was going to ask Uwe Boll one question, it's going to be this question, and it's going to be one of the weirdest I'm sure you'd ever heard. Okay, I'm asking it. So the movie's called The Final Storm.
Yeah.
Okay. Strange movie, a fun movie, but strange. You had Fred Perry. Is that his name?
Luke Perry. Luke Perry.
Luke Perry, Steve Basic, and you had Lauren Holly. You had Lauren Holly in it.
Mm-hmm.
You had a very spicy scene in that movie that threw me way off. I was like, what? So my question was that a stunt person in that scene, or was that Lauren Holly?
That was Lauren Holly.
Oh my God. How did you get her to do that?
That was not so easy, and I agree. She didn't want to do, in a way, nudity, but she agreed to partly nudity to do it, right? So, and then we filmed it through a mirror, like this kind of thing. But I mean, I really like working with her. She's a great actress, you know, and I mean, we all know her from Dumb and Dumber, and she was the wife from Jim Carrey. So, she's a great actress, good sense of humor. I mean, I had fun doing it. It's one of the few films also who I didn't develop, who I didn't really produced in a way this film, and suddenly came basically from third parties to me. And they are both, I think, good films, but you feel they are like not the typical Uwe Boll film.
Oh, the ending's I'll put it this way: the ending is in the class of the Beyond, Fulci's Beyond. The final scene of the Final Storm is in that class. It's one of the most unforgettable endings of any movie I've seen. It is a trip. It is not what you expect at all. It was a very interesting film, and you got a great performance.
I like that. Was the thing I was fascinated by it when I got the script. It was this kind of like, what is if there are no more humans? Like when you actually wake up and you have only a few people left and you don't know what happened. In a way, you remember Leftovers, the TV series?
Yeah,
was later. Like, I mean, they maybe stole the idea from from us, but we're also like from one to next day, people were gone, and nobody had an explanation why like 1/3 of the population disappeared. And I felt like that is kind of it's fascinating, because I think everybody asked questions like this to yourself from time to time. What would be if I'm the last person on earth? Or what is if like something crazy happens and you cannot reach anybody anymore, and people just disappear for whatever reasons? So yeah, that was the premises, and I liked that.
yeah, I did too. I thought it was one of the more. I thought it was one of your more. I thought it was one of your more fun movies. I don't. One thing I have to tell you right off the bat too, and I'll turn this over to Mimi to get her impression. I think your casting choices are a lot of fun. I think that's the half the fun of your movies is your cast, because I love The Alone in the Dark. I said it. So everybody just take a chill pill. I loved Alone in the Dark. I thought it was fun. Christian Slater and Tara Reid. Tara Reid never looked better. She never had a better role. Tell you the truth, she really never did. She looked great. She looked like you made her look really, really good in that movie. And
it's not what the reviews wrote. Let's say it this way, right?
You know what though? What's that saying? Reviews are like assholes. Everybody has one. Everybody has an opinion. But I mean, how about you, Mimi? I mean,
we're on the subject of Alone in the Dark. I did think that was a real interesting way of like mashing up so many different styles. I felt like it reminded me of about 10 different old school films I remember watching like as a kid, in a mashup of a different storyline, and the action, the sci-fi, the paranormal coming together. It was pretty great,
It's really tough to say what genre it is, right? Is it a creature film like Aliens or whatever, Predator? In a way, yes, but it's also this kind of Starship Troopers kind of feeling to it from time to time, but also like a cop film, a detective cop film. What Edward Carnby is in the game too. So no, I mean, that is the thing. When I got some very bad reviews for it, I said also I think that especially Stephen Dorff and Christian Slater, they did a great job. They are totally for me, one of the kind of big miracles is that Christian Slater, even after True Romance and Robin Hood and all that stuff, never made it into a real big star. But I felt always as an actor, he's, for example, better as Keanu Reeves. And I think like when you see Brad Pitt, superstar, same generation kind of thing. Tom Cruise, superstar, same generation. Keanu Reeves, superstar, with Matrix and John Wick and so. But Christian Slater never made it to that level. And but I think acting wise, and he was in actually films I like more, as I like, for example, the Keanu Reeves films. It's strange. I don't know why, but it's almost like in America they don't really like him. I don't know. It's a strange situation. I mean, so many good films.
That's interesting you mentioned about Keanu Reeves, because there's one thing that really makes Keanu Reeves work. And if you go back and you watch a lot of his movies, there's one thing that Keanu Reeves does not do a lot of in all his movies, and that is speak. If you really look at a lot of his movies, he does not talk a lot in any of his movies. There's no heavy scenes. There's no heavy big speeches. There's no dialogue. There's no dialogue. Heavy. I mean, very few movies has he ever done where he's had the principal weight of all the dialogue. Most of the time, it's not. I mean, he's a good actor, but he does get out of movies without saying a whole lot.
Yes, but that is what I mean. I think the range, like a Christian Slater could play also a John Grisham film, and he plays an attorney, right? But could Keanu Reeves do that? Could you really pull something off like this, right? Or is it really like this kind of you? Oh God, I don't know what's with that. Terror in my house. Hopefully they take the phone out. So,
all right, let me go scroll up here and see if I missed any questions. How do you cast your movies, Mimi? What do you look for when you cast? I mean, what kind of talents or quirks or personality are you looking for when you cast?
I guess the main thing is if I know we're going to have a good chemistry working relationship together, and if they're going to get on chemistry wise working and acting, if they work well together, I try and keep that in mind. And somebody who's prepared and somebody who's dedicated, somebody who's able to like take your notes and work with you.
I mean, is that what you look for when you cast to Uwe? Do you look for the best person for the script, or do you go for the best person to what Uwe sees playing the character?
I mean, it's a different thing, right? So because there are two castings in a film. It's first you try to get some names. You try to get some like valuable actors who can sell a film. So there you just have to trust that the people you like, you make the offer, they take it, and then you don't really have an audition. It's not like they send you a tape and prove they can do it. They wait for the offer, and then so that is the thing. But all the other actors, like in New York now, for example, in the film in March, I basically had every actor putting themselves on tape, even if there were name actors in, but there were no superstars in. So, and I really I went on Zoom with a lot, and we talked about the part, we talked about the character they want to play, and I try to find out, like, are they on the same page as me, how they see their character. And I had various people I, in a way, then didn't hire it because I felt that could be too problematic. They had it too much already made up in their brain, basically, what they want to do. And I felt that is not the way I want to go with that character, So, yeah, that worked very well. And it was a luxus this kind of grade. We actually picked the best possible people for that part, and they all did a very good job. So, but I would love to do screen tests and stuff like this, but a lot of times they don't do that. They do that for Martin Scorsese, but not for me. So
I'm going to scroll back to the chat here and catch up with it because I don't want to leave anybody behind here. Let's see. Everybody's saying hello, Sarah. I see you. The Ice Lord is here. Hi, Ice Lord. Hobbs, welcome. Let's see. Mimi, a question for you. Mimi, James wants to know what's your favorite Uwe Boll movie. That's a good question.
Well, I would say that I think the one I liked the most was the In the Name of the King, I didn't think it would have been, but for the sheer scale of it and the amount of action, I thought it was just very exciting overall. I thought there was a lot to it, and then afterwards, I found out that how big the budget was, and I was just like, wow, well then that really was such a grand project. There was just
And I'm gonna let Yui guess which movie I liked of his.
I would say Postal or Rampage.
No, I loved In the Name of the King 2.
The second
my
one
favorite.
with Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
Okay.
I loved the second movie. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought Dolph Lundgren was great. You had an actor named Alex Spawn, a Canadian actor.
Yeah.
Absolutely stole the movie for me. I thought it was, and Lachlan Monroe played the king.
Yeah.
He was a hoot. Oh my gosh, he must have kept everybody laughing. He was awesome in that movie. He was so much fun to watch. But yeah, I was really impressed because you got some really good acting out of that movie. There was some really strong, some really good. That was one of the best roles that Dolph Lundgren ever played. I mean, he showed some real range and some real depth. I mean, and he's done a lot of movies, but not every director gets that out of him. But you got a great performance out of him. What was your secret to that? What did you tell him?
No, I mean, I felt like I don't want to have him stiff. Like I told him, like, you're not Ivan Drago here. I mean, it's a time travel situation. What throws you totally off your balance, basically. And I think he adjusted to it, you know. So and that was good. And Lachlan played in a lot of my films, and it was like basically. I mean, it's the little brother from the first one, right? So, I mean, for me, the first one was the biggest fun I had shooting a film because you had all that stars, Jason Statham and all that big stars. And you had, first time I had really enough money to do whatever I want, you know, to really say, okay, you know what, I need 2,000 extras and stuff like this. And we made it happen. So it was kind of like my Braveheart in a way, you know, and I felt I don't want to make it too fantasy. I want to do it more like knights, right? So this kind of like King Arthur feeling to it, and a revenge situation. His son gets killed, and then with Ray Liotta as the bad guy. I had a lot of fun shooting it, you know. So yeah, but I mean, there are 3 Dungeon Siege, three times in the Name of the King, because they really did very well in TV, DVD, everywhere. You know, in some countries, theatrical was not so good in US, but in some countries did very good in the movies, theaters too. And no, I love that genre too. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings and you know, Game of Thrones, stuff like this. And it was just really fun to shoot. And overall, I'm a big fan in general to not shoot in a studio. I like shooting on original locations, and I feel always good when I'm just out there and shooting something. I hate being in a dark film studio in front of green screen or stuff like this. I don't like it.
Okay, we have a question from Dark Marv. He has a question for you, Yui. Yui, which was the movie you had the most fun working on the set, and which was the most frustrating?
Yeah, I mean, definitely In the Name of the King and Postal. They were my most fun films I was on set, because Postal was just hilarious. So whatever scene we were shooting, we were laughing our asses off. So it was just like this kind of a super positive, funny atmosphere on set. And In the Name of the King, because everybody worked very good together. I had a very good relationship with Claire Forlani, Lydia Sobieski, Ron Perlman. It was really fun to work with all that people. And that was, yeah, just pure, like, extreme positive shooting without regrets. And of course, I had also very hard shoots where on the one hand, the emotional situation with Darfur was very hard to shoot with real refugees from Sudan, and then they're getting raped and killed again, basically, and the kids getting killed. So they reacted what happened to them and to their families. And when you direct this, you feel that it's not fake now. They're really, really reliving it. And so you have a totally different responsibility as a director, because you really feel like, I don't want to drive somebody now in a depression here.
Right.
You know, but they all felt it's so important to show the world that 500,000 people got killed there, that they had to do it. So, and that I think was great. And also with all the actors around, like Rostana Loken, Billy Zane, Edward Furlong, for them, it was also an experience they will never forget. So, but that was in a way, the good way to be under tension on set. But frustrating were, for example, all 3 Bloodrayne films. And that had to do with the circumstances. So we had the first one in Romania, and there was it was just the shooting in Romania with the Media Pro Studios we worked with was the whole time like a fight. You know, they wanted to steal our money, basically, and they didn't pay the crew properly. And then we said, we pay the crew now directly because you skim too much money off them. Mm-hmm. And then they said, we shut your production down, and they threatened us. Then we had, like, we shot a lot in the mountains in Romania. What is an amazing country. I mean, Romania looks great for locations and everything. But there was just, the organization was horrible. You got nothing to eat. There was like, really, the catering didn't appear, and you're like in the mountains somewhere, and you work for 8 hours, and then there was actually no food besides like some Snickers or whatever you get like in the railway station. And so there was a lot of frustration with it. In Bloodrayne 2, in that Wild West city, we had a huge accident with huge explosions and burned down half of the city, the biggest insurance case I ever had in a film, because one of the gas heaters exploded, and he exploded through the roof and then fell back into the other gas tanks, and then we had to run. And basically you couldn't do anything because they were going off like bombs, and we were just watching from the hill with the fire department. They also said, we're not going down there before the explosions don't stop. And so that was a massive disaster. And on Bloodrayne 3 in Croatia, it was similar in winter in Croatia, similar, very hard production conditions. You know, where you're out in the snow mud the whole day for 12 hours, and cars got stuck in the snow and couldn't get up the hills and stuff like this. That was very, very hard and in a way frustrating. So it's strange that always at Bloodrayne, at the shoots, something really shitty happened. And in the name of the King, in the name of the King films I did, it was all fine. So it's the curse of Bloodrayne. Yeah.
Mimi, I have a question for you. So how do you handle when things don't always necessarily go right on a shoot? I mean, what tactics and techniques do you developed to improve your directing on when something doesn't go exactly right?
Well, I guess like in the moment, you just got to think quick on your feet, and it comes down to 2 things: the safety of everyone, and also making sure you get the shots that you need to tell the story. You know, this is why I always think about who I'm crewing up around me, because you need people who can think quick on their feet. And what filmmaking initially really is like a bunch of problem solving. I find that a lot of the time you can organize, but sometimes you have to deviate, and you have to be like, okay, well, this isn't exactly going to plan. How can we compensate, I guess?
You know what I want to add to it is like, because I have a lot of like thoughts about the strikes right now with the writers guilds and stuff like this, right? And I completely understand why people want to get money. But what all the unions should put into account is independent filmmaking too. And if you make it completely impossible for real independent filmmakers to afford to have a shoot because of all the limitations and regulations, it's not good. You know, I urge everybody, when the SAG goes on strike now too soon, that you need to split it up, right? You should get more money from Amazon or Apple or whatever, residuals and everything. But you also have to have a rule that if an actor wants to play in a completely unpaid independent film, that he can do it without having a problem with the union. And if a writer wants to give his script for free away to get it done, he should be also able to do it. You know, when Corona was out there, that we were still doing, when I shot this year in March in New York, I had to do Corona tests every third day with the whole crew. That cost 20, 30K for totally bullshit, you know, where you are in New York and nobody gets tested anymore. No more get travel testing, whatever, but they forced you to do this. And that is shit, because for some independent filmmakers, 20,000 for Corona test is a knockout for the whole production. And you know, and it is ridiculous. And I was so mad with the unions trying to pull that bullshit off. And I said, look, it's officially not a pandemic anymore in the rest of the world, in the rest of New York also, right? And I said, but in film, you still insist in that stupid testing. And I said, look, what will actually happen if an actor has it? You think that I'm able to pay 5 days that he goes in quarantine, even if he doesn't feel sick? I mean, that would be almost the case then, right? So that you cannot shoot because he got tested positive or she got tested positive. But even if you don't feel you're sick. So, and I feel during the COVID time that they felt like now we have to overprotect everything in a way that it's insane.
Yeah, sort of weird how that worked out. They went gonzo over the COVID test, right? They went gonzo. All the studios went gonzo, and you're right. But then again, when it comes down to giving you residuals or giving you royalties for your movies and your TV shows, all of a sudden all you hear is damn crickets. You don't hear anything for there. It's like, oh, that's different. It isn't different. You know, it's like I think it's great that they went out and they did protect the sets. I totally agree with it during COVID time, but I also agree too that, you know, I'm sure everybody here in the chat will agree with me that they need to be paid elsewhere too. You know, they need to get royalties. They need to get residues. If your movie gets played on streaming, you need to get paid for it. You need to get paid for it. When you made their movie and you signed your contract for your right to the movie to be shown on TV or whatnot, there was no such thing as streamers then. There's no streamers back then when In the Name of the King was out. There's no streamers. But what happened? Just think about it. And you know, I also mentioned this too during our pre-show. You know, we're talking about that movie, you know, in the documentary, and how, you know, it didn't have any studio backing, and it came out there, and you know, and it you know, it didn't make it, you know, in 2 weeks. But you know, I'm thinking about now. It's like now I was gonna ask you this: if you released in the Name of the King today, without changing anything in the movie itself, do you think it would have made a profit?
I don't know. Maybe not. I really don't know. I know only like when they criticized me on House of the Dead made 11 million box office, Alone in the Dark 6 million in US. So, you know, and they're all like, oh, the worst of the worst, whatever. But look what happened after. You have now hundreds of films. They were way more expensive as Alone in the Dark, and they made nothing. They made $1 million box office, and nobody gives a shit. Right. So because now it's all about, oh, they are going to the streamer right away. And it's of course, the times completely changed. I'm a big fan of theatrical releases. I'm a big fan of still Blu-ray and DVDs and streaming and cable and going through the whole pipeline of distribution possibilities with a film. I think also like it's completely absurd if a film, like what the streamers doing right now, coming back to the strikes and the unions, what I think is a total joke is why you pay, for example, Ryan Reynolds is a superstar, right? But if I have him in a streamer film who's coming out only on the streamer, nobody should get 30 million bucks as an actor, but they pay this. And that is ridiculous. You know, instead of like being whiny, paying the minimum wage higher, you know, all the streamers and the studios should say, we're overpaying the stars, because this so-called superstars are in reality not superstars. Because as soon, for example, whatever, Ryan Reynolds is playing Deadpool, you have a sure hit, it makes a billion bucks, you know. But if Ryan Reynolds plays a film just for a streamer, the movie makes basically nothing. It makes clicks, but you know, but you cannot. Why you offer these people so much money to do that films? It's bullshit. If all the streamers would say nobody gets more as 10 million, even Tom Cruise is not getting more as 10 million, they would all do it for 10 million, because 10 million for 2 months work is still 10 million. So, and that is the thing. But what we have now is some people making shitloads of money in that world, and the majority of the people can barely make a living.
Yeah.
You know, when I read, like, from the Writers Guild, I read a lot of articles that actually people, they've wrote, like, they were in the writer's room, they've wrote massive things on Ozark, on all that stuff, and they make like $4,000 a month. How is that possible? Wow. You know, and then some other writers getting $5 million for a script. And you think, okay, but they worked on hit shows and still didn't get any money, because they didn't get the credit in a way, because it's the writer's room. You know, then you put all your heart in it, but you're not getting even mentioned, only in the end roll, what nobody watches. So, and that is unfair. And I think that is the thing what urgently has to stop. You know, so, and I think it's a joke how much money some producers, some writers, some actors like getting, and there they need to cut it. And not like on the low end fees of, you know, if somebody works as an actor, he prepares the day. You know, the lowest end as an actor you get per SAG is like $380 a day, right? So I think that is very low for an actor, because you prep, you learn your lines, you come to the set, you play, and you go home. I still think it's very, very important to have this for independent films, that actors can say, I do this, right? But if you are working on a Netflix paid show or Amazon paid show, you should not get $380 a day. You should get at least $1,500 a day as an actor, you know? So I think that is the thing. It's like, as I said, I hope that the unions have a special offer for independent filmmakers that they can keep working, and that they allow their members to work also on independent shows for less pay.
Yeah, I you know, it was we were talking with another artist, and we were talking about the directors. You know, their you know, their contract came up, and are you part of the Directors Guild now?
Yeah, I'm a member of the DGC in Canada for a long time, because I made so many films, right? But for example, the Directors Guild is, I think, the easiest one, because they don't interfere. If you want to make a film, you make the film. You know, they're not like calling you and say, make sure you hire only union people in your crew, whatever, right? So they never did that in my films. They know I'm a producer also, and they just let me do my stuff. I pay my dues, my membership dues, end of the story, you know? So I'm all pro unions. I think it's important that the unions in the film industry, you know, but I think, as I said, I think the top is too rich, and the majority should get at least more residuals if things working, you know?
Will that happen for the I mean, for, I don't know if you can speak of this or not, but when you recently settled, you're settled with the studios, did that happen for the directors? So the directors, are they going to be getting more money now from streamers? Are you guys getting more money now?
Minimal, right? So it's just like not a lot of things changing basically. But I think also directors, look, when you when you look, like, who gets the biggest residuals? The composers, the music composers, because the ASCAP and the GEMA and all that music collection agencies, they are up to speed. Like, they getting, like Jessica, my composer, she makes more money as me on that films. When they run in TV, she gets more money as me. And I'm the director producer on all of this, right? So, but she gets like because she did the music, she gets way more royalties out of it as I get as a director or a producer. I think it's unbelievable. In a way, it's completely absurd, but it is what it is. And there are a lot of composers that just live from the royalties. And the other unions are very not so good in collecting royalties, you know.
You have to admit, though, you have to admit, a good composer can help make your film. A good composer can make it or break it. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's been some movies where the score has just absolutely saved the day. The movie might be sort of like this, but you add in the score and it turns that movie into like a blockbuster.
Yeah, I know. Wow. I know. No, I'm not against that they get the royalties, but as you said, if it's my film, you know, how long is the composer working on a film and how long is the producer director working on the film? Like, you know, like every film I do, I work at least triple the time as the composer over a long period of time. And then I get like 20% of the royalties what the composer gets. And you think, like, why is that split? Like, who made that split? Like, who comes up with that percentages? So, it's this kind of strange. And one more thing about the streamers. I think the streamers should offer, based on clicks, like based on views, basically, everybody royalties. If you are, you know, like that is the thing. If nobody watches it, you cannot say, I was paid, now I want on top royalties. Yeah, so then everybody has to lose if something doesn't get watched. But let's say you are on something and it gets watched, then not only the director, producer, or showrunner should make shitloads of money, then everybody. You know, then they should give you more royalties for the show, because it was a surprising hit. And they should do that also for product they just buy. Because that is the thing, right? If they produce something, they pay shitloads of money. But if you sell something to them, they don't pay a lot of money. And then I think at least if they just buy something and it outperforms, you should get, as a freelance producer, a bonus. You know?
I agree. We have this right here from Hobbs. Because this is a good segue too. Hobbs mentions he thinks that film reviewers should get a cut. Oh my God.
They want the bribery. They want the
So let me ask you this, because I watched this and I've been carrying this one too with me, and I watched Raging Bull, and I'm going to talk a little bit about critics, because we're all here in the chat. You know, myself and everybody else is here. We're critics too. You know, we like to write reviews and stuff like that. We're not dicks. We're not assholes. You know, we write. I think pretty much honestly, I can tell you that every single person here watching you today with us writes a very fair review. But my question to you is, you had such a rough time. I mean, I felt fucking sorry for you. I really did. I felt fucking sorry for you. It was really, really. I had no idea how bad it was for you to, you know, as not only as a film director, but as a fucking human being. I was appalled. I was appalled by what I saw, by what all those petitions and all that rhetoric, all that hatred from a bunch of scum. I mean, some of the people on that movie, I wouldn't want them within 100 yards of me without them taking a sponge bath or a shower or a fire hose or something. My question to you, though, I want to talk about a little bit about this. You had the boxing match,
By the
the
way,
blocking
your video is frozen the whole time. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't see you moving. Like
okay.
your face is.
Let me go back here and let me go back out. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back.
I have a question
Yeah.
while we're waiting. Along the same kind of topics as obviously not just a human being, but a director, after all of that hounding quite consistently, how do you then pick up all of the pieces and actually carry on with quite a long, successful career? Like you carried, even till this day, you're still doing so much, and even before and after critics came after you, kept doing so much. How do you, what is that inside you that makes you push? What makes you stop going into this spiral and listen to them?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like it was sometimes tough, you know, and not nice, of course. But I think when you know you gave your best or whatever, when you know you tried really hard to succeed or to make a great film, but it didn't turn out like this, you have to also kind of self-reflect and think, okay, what could be better? Like, how can I make it better in the future or whatever? And I think it's a learning curve to it also. I think also I put a lot of gasoline in the fire, and you know, because I always fight back. I don't have the personality to cave in when people attack me. So I just then start a fight and say, oh, fuck yourself. So, and that is the thing what hurt me too, because I think the critics don't like this. They like more if they can really hurt somebody, or they feel, oh, we hurt them, you know, and then they're going even deeper and twisting the knife in the heart. So it is kind of a perversion sometimes what reviewers have. But, you know, they are like sometimes like sadists in a way. And I respect a bad review if the guy or whoever wrote it put the work in the review too. But a lot of times I got reviews, you had the feeling they didn't even watch the film in total and just bashed it. And that was pissing me off majorly, because everybody like you, me, we know how much work it is to finish a film, you know, and to just say, Boll just wants to tank the film. They saw it like I shot films in 2 days and released them 2 days later, stuff like this. And it's just total bullshit. So, and that was very tough to live with a lot, because you felt nobody listens to you. Nobody cares what you say. They just make their mind up and go for it. So that was not so easy, you know, but I felt the whole time I love making films, and I love film in general. I like also watching films and stuff. And that was motivation enough to keep going, you know. And I think every person who works in film has this kind of identity crisis at one point, right? That where they feel like, what the fuck I'm doing? I mean, it's insane, you know. So and it doesn't make any sense in a way, but it's an addiction also, you know. It's just really like when I had that restaurant, and for 4.5 years I basically did no film. I really had like the urge to do it. I already felt like I cannot do that with that restaurant way longer, you know, because I'm made to make films and not have a restaurant. So it's kind of, but sometimes you have to give something else a shot and have to see what is really your passion, you know. And I'm very happy that I have that since I'm 10. And because a lot of people I know or my friends I grew up with, they don't really have a passion. They just have a job. And they, you know, and they just like looking only like how much pay I get to do this, so that in my private life I can do the things I enjoy. And that idea was for me always a nightmare scenario, to just go somewhere and sit behind a desk and then go home and feel okay, but now I do what I really want. I love it that I actually do for work what I really want, but there's a price to pay for it. You know, a lot of uncertainty, insecurity. You don't know how it all turns out. You don't know if there's a career after. Like, or if nobody in the last few years, nobody ever came to me and hired me, said, here's a script, we pay you, or whatever to do it. Nobody, because they all feel, I don't know what it is, but they maybe think, no, Uwe Boll, he got so bad reviews, we just want to be connected to him. Or they think I'm only doing my own stuff and would never come to that idea even to offer me something. It's strange, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess I wanted to ask you one more thing before Patrick's question as well. And that was, obviously, you studied film for quite a long time and wrote a lot about films before you did actually make your own film. What was your favorite film or the most influential film for you when you was younger?
Yeah, so what triggered it was Mutinity of the Bounty with Marlon Brando. Was really like, for me, a film when I was very young, where I looked at it and felt, wow, I want to do stuff like this. Because I felt that film's a big adventure, and when you shoot a film, you are there. You're living the Western world. You're living the old adventurous time, the Rome Empire, whatever. I mean, it was, of course, I was almost a child when I said I want to do it. Then later, when you see, of course, it's all fake, right? So, but still, the process of making a film is very fascinating. And I grew up more with American films because when I grew up, there was no streaming. There was only you go to the movies or you have a few TV channels. And in the TV channels, I watched a lot of Western, the John Wayne Western. They were typical for German TV, that they played on James Stewart, all the or Quo Vadis, Ben-Hur, like the big gladiator films and stuff like this. That was like the early TV influence, were a lot of American genre films. And then later, when I was like 17, 18 and went more to the movies myself, there was that huge horror wave. When I was exactly that age, the Halloween one came, Friday the 13th one, Mother Day, Man Eater, all that stuff, where it was almost also Jaws from Steven Spielberg, right? The masterpiece forever, where you go to the movies to get creeped out, like to be like, so I loved that feeling, the tension you had there. So, and only when I was between 20 and 30, I think I really looked really deeper into film history and went out there and tried to find like what the French directors did, Truffaut, like this kind of, the Spanish director, Louis Buñuel, whatever, Fellini in Italy. So you look more around the world also to find the dramas, Ingmar Bergman in Scandinavia, like this kind of stuff. I watched it all, and if you ask me today, I would say still genre films are the ones who survive the longest. Because all that like kind of art house political drama and all that stuff, what wins the Cannes Film Festival in a way, is after 2 years, nobody knows that films anymore. Nobody cares and nobody watches them. But Jaws, I can watch tomorrow and I'm still completely entertained. And I think on the long run, this kind of genre films are more really showing the world, what the world is in a way. They stick longer with you, and you don't forget Aliens or Terminator 1. They are very old films, but they're still fresh and there. And I think that this kind of political or art house films, they don't do that.
You can throw in the Final Storm in there, because it stays with me. All right, we got some questions here. Let's see. Okay. Dark Marv asked you a question, but a little bit more modern. Let's frame it this way. Uwe, what is your favorite movies? How about this today? Today's movies today. Say the last 10 years. What have been like 2 or 3 of your favorite movies?
Yeah, there is not too many, because I think the quality of the films also run for Oscars went drastically down. And I would now put some TV shows in front of movies, where I would say I was more entertained watching that 8-part miniseries here or whatever as watching films, So I'm a big fan of, when you ask me more for the last 20 years in a way, There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis, I think was a total masterpiece. I loved that film. Of course, there were various great films, but was there in the last 10 years a film like Dances with Wolves? I just or Godfather or something. Was there anything like this in this kind of quality done in the last 10 years? That is not so easy. And, I think I saw a lot of good films, of course, but there was not a lot of films where I got drawn into, like I got into whatever. Look at the Italian show Gomorrah. I got totally drawn into it, right? The first seasons of Ozark was amazing. Where is it, Disney or Paramount Plus? The Offer, about shooting of The Godfather with Miles Teller, 8-part miniseries, amazing. I loved that show, right? So, but that is the thing. I think a lot of things now are better characterizations and everything is better, that they give it more time and they have 8 parts or 12 parts, showing a little more deepness to the character. As I said, a lot of films now also becomes also through the streamers. The streamers want action right off the bat, so people don't switch. They want them hooked, right? So they force you in a way to, you cannot have a slow burn in a Netflix original. It doesn't work. They don't want that. They want that you chop that first head off after 5 seconds, so that hopefully the people are like shocked and stay on it. And I think also this, of course, trains a younger generation to, when I see my own kids, right, they're watching fucking TikTok videos the whole time. They're bored sitting in a movie theater for 2 hours. They think like, what the fuck is that? So they, it's this kind of like I think the younger generation now is stuck to their cell phones, and they want instant gratification. And that is a big problem to tell good stories, so that is also, I don't know how to really, I think we need to calm down and learn to sit down and lean back again in the movie theaters to watch a good film and just enjoy it. You know what film I loved? The Thai rescue film from Ron Howard with Colin Farrell and Viggo Mortensen. It was basically, you remember when the kids were like in that flooded cave in Thailand, and that divers took them out.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's on Amazon, whatever, but it was a great film. That was a film I was hooked. I started watching it. Great acting, Viggo Mortensen, Colin Farrell, they're always super. They played the divers, and you watch that film, you're super entertained, and it was a perfect film for me. But because it was only on a streamer, nobody really paid enough attention to it. There was definitely a film what should run for best film of the year in the Oscars, but
you're right. And a lot of these streaming companies, that's unfortunate too, and that is they don't release a lot of like Netflix, they don't release anything that they produce in house. They don't release it on physical media. Very rarely. I mean, the studios will do it, but a lot of the movies they won't release it. Apple Plus is better than that. But as far as Netflix to go, no. Disney Plus, no. But Disney is going to be doing it toward the end of the year. I think by the end of the year, we'll be seeing physical media coming from Disney again. Let's see.
Really,
go ahead.
Interesting to go up the chain as well and actually look at all of the kind of like bigger budget film companies and production houses and the people who do own the streaming services, because it is a massive monopoly right now, and so many different bigger companies are owning more streaming services and more production houses. So it's like almost like a one-party government in a way. It's like one production house in Hollywood is then owning all of them, It's like a transfer it's quite
and it's
interesting.
also like, for example, I had an appointment with Apple Plus in LA last year in November, right? And the guys were like, yeah, we cannot have any controversy, right? And I said, how you mean, like in stories or what? They said basically nothing. We just want to make it everybody right, and nobody should flip out because Apple Plus made a film where somebody writes something negative about it, right? So in a way. And I said, but that is exactly why people don't watch Apple Plus. I mean, we have to be serious here. I don't know people who have Apple Plus, right? So, and a lot of the films they do are very, very like safe, where you don't try to steer the pot in anything. But that is the end of the film industry. The whole point is you need also films. They bring you further. They make you upset. You think that I cannot believe it. What I'm seeing here. If you slow all of this down, then the whole art goes to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, in the 70s or 80s, when you went to a stage play, if there was not half of the actors naked in the end, there was no stage play. It was like this kind of like they wanted to shock all the time with stuff, right? So, I mean, it was maybe not the best idea that everybody got naked, but the reality is they made the decision to say, we want to offend the audience. We want that they react, that they yell at us, whatever. And I think it's important to still allow films who basically like shock you or shock the audience, or half of the audience says that is not funny, that is just offensive. That is important, that this still happens. And if they all play it so safe, then of course there's one boring film after the other. I mean, I love Ted Lasso, super good show, but it's a fairy tale. So it's like a funny show, but it's not. And I know why Apple Plus made it, and I'm happy that they made it. But there is, of course, a lot on stuff on Apple Plus where you think, oh, there are superstars playing, but then you start watching it and you think like, eh.
Yeah, like Bill Lawrence. Bill Lawrence is capable of a lot more sharper storytelling because he is a very good storyteller and he's sharp. I mean, he's not afraid. He wasn't afraid to cut loose. Go back and watch Scrubs, and you can see you see what he's capable of. So I agree with you. It does seem like storytelling is getting blooded. I have another question for you. We have questions. I'll catch up with you. Catch up with it. Our friend Francesco will be here next Saturday, by the way. Our friend Francesco will be here. He'll be here also from Germany. He asked Uwe, where does he feel more supported, in Germany or the U.S.? Oh, I think that's Germany.
No, not really.
Really?
No. I think it's in both countries are a lot of fans of my films, but also in the decision-making department of the studios, of the TV channels, whatever. It's not really a difference. A lot of people are kind of like, they like my films, but they don't want to produce them. So when you see like Netflix bought 20 of my films, for example, right? But they didn't give me ever money that I make a film for them. So it's this kind of like, yeah, his films are entertaining. We have them on our channel, whatever, but there is no like Uwe Boll fan in Germany or in US who is the decision maker at Amazon Studios or at Disney and says, okay, you know what, we should hire that guy. So it's not there. So I have to live with it. But I also know
that really pisses me off because see, and Mimi touched upon this too, and this is my point. What really enraged me about while I was watching the studio, and this is what really got me blistering mad was the fact that people lumped you as the worst director. Well, first of all, and the chat can back this up. Oh my God, not even close. Not even if he wanted the title, you couldn't have it because there are too many worse directors out there. And yes, I have heard the story of, but they made a movie at least. You know what? I can give my damn cat. I can put a camera around his neck, a collar. I could put a little GoPro on his neck. He'd make a better movie than a lot of the movies I watch. And I'm not being facetious. I'm just being factual. What really pisses me off more than anything else was the fact that people were already condemning you for your movies before they even got out. I mean, you would send out a press release. You would send out a press release. You would send off a press release saying, I'm going to be doing this movie. And before you even got a crew together, even before we got locations or anything, people were jumping on it like, oh, that's another dead movie. It's a bad movie. They didn't even watch the movie. They didn't even give it a chance. And that's really disheartening. And it's harming. It's actually very destructive because it took away your ability to practice your craft. Because I'm sure with every movie that came out and all that criticism, I'm sure it became harder and harder to secure financing for your next movie because they couldn't help but look at it. They couldn't help but hear people condemning you and ripping you. And it's like, it's not right, but they're human. So they react to it, and then I'm sure when you went in there and you made your pitches, a lot of, like you said, a lot of like Apple, well, we can't have any controversy. You know what that controversy was about. It was you. They didn't want to be tied to you because of the past. And you had nothing to do with it. It was out of your control. You didn't tell those people to write that. You were making the best movie you knew how. So and believe me, I do say that because there are a lot of directors that are lazy. They don't do the best that they can do. And I think that's really was a frustration for me anyway, as a self-styled critic, is when I see a director who doesn't do his best. That gets me more than anything else. When you know that they're capable of more, but they settle for less. But you did try. Every movie that you put out, you did try. You worked your ass off. You could see that on the screen. And I just feel like it damaged you. It did. And to me, it's like it really made your job going forward so much more harder. You have stories to tell, but like you said, you don't want to spend your own money doing it. I mean, and then you have to go out there and you have to battle all the obstacles to do that. I understand that. I just feel like it's I feel bad. I feel bad. I hope that I'm sort of surprised what you said about Germany. I would have thought it would have been us. I would have thought it would have been America was the one that treated you the worst.
No, in Germany it's the same, and it's like, of course, in Germany, it's easier for me to talk to more like executives from TV stations or from the streamers here, right? So because, of course, in Germany, I'm not a lot of people with this kind of credits. They all, whatever, if I send something to Netflix Germany, Amazon Germany, they all read it. They all come back to me with feedback. That is, of course, better as in US. If I send a script to Ted Sarandos, I can never get an answer, of course. So, but that is the thing. But they don't give me then in the very end the money. I did it various times that I came with projects from here with very well-known German stars attached and so on, but they still never gave me the money. So, and that is the thing. So I know I always have to find investors. I always have to find sales that I know this guy's buying the film for France, this guy's buying Italy, and we will see. I think I'm not done, So it's I still think I'm young enough to shoot more films. And I will. So, but as you said, it's tough to break the wall always, to drill a hole in the wall to make something happen. Especially if a lot of people, they don't even know a lot of the films I did. They never gave it a fair shot to watch all the films, right? So, and that is that is kind of a little disappointing, but look, it is what it is. And I don't want to act like I'm totally depressed about it. I know the game, and I know how it all works out. And it's interesting. Last week I read that thing where Christopher Nolan talked with Steven Soderbergh, and there was an article about it, They had like a talk on a stage somewhere. And Nolan said that he basically loves to prep a film and loves to do the post and loves to like talk to the crew and whatever, like getting a film started, but he hates to shoot the film. And I felt that is, in my case, exactly the opposite. I always love the most to actually do the film. And that is a different kind of, also Kubrick hated to be actually shooting a film, but it's like this or that, right? So, and I'm definitely somebody who likes to be in the action, like doing something for real. Here is the crew, here is the cast, here's the location, let's do it. And I know in your head, you always have a fantasy film in your head, how your film in the end looks like. And then you actually shoot the film. And of course, the film is in the end different. The question is only, is he maybe better as you thought about it, or is he at least different, but same quality as you had it in your head? And I like the process. I like the process to work with everybody and doing it. And that is the thing what, for example, my DP, Matthias Neumann, who is doing tons of films, like tons and tons of films, or the line producer, Dan Clark, he just did a Halle Berry film. He did the interview with Seth Rogen, but he did like tons and tons of studio films. And they both cannot understand why I don't get job after job after job. Because they said, like, you're so good on set. You never go over budget, never go over time. You move it forward. Like, you come to set, you know what to do, and boom, 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 you shoot. So they said, like, you're basically the dream of every studio we ever worked for, but they still don't give me the job.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. They cannot believe it. But I think it's all what you said. It's all the reputation. They Google me, and that is it. And they never talk to me in person. They never try me out and say, look, let's do this. Let's do. Boll is doing an episode from a TV series, right? So let him do that episode. Let's see how it turns out. And then they would be very surprised how smooth that all goes.
I agree with you exactly. I agree with you exactly how you stated it. You know what? It's like, this. I mean, it's just sort of sucks that somebody would actually give anybody like some of those trolls a second. I can understand them coming at you and saying about the return of the movie, but again, it's like, wow, really? Can you really do that now? Because if you go back to In the Name of the King, and I asked you, do you think you would have made money today? I think he would have had a fighting chance at it, because back when it came out, there was one market that was not open to you. The Chinese market was not open to you, and the model for filmmaking has changed. Now, and we were talking about this before you got here, and that is now the movie that they make here in the U.S. They hope to break even in the U.S. That's what they want to do. They want to break even here and then make their profit over there. Before, it was all about how much money were you going to make here. Like, if you look at some of the movies, like the Avengers movies or some of the MCU movies, if you look at their box office versus their domestic box office versus their production, there's a lot of movies that didn't make their money, according to there's a lot that didn't. Some did, some of the Avengers movies, but there's a lot more that did not. If you look at them and go like, wow, if they only played here and they got that much return, they lost money or they broke even. Let me get some more questions here before we let you go. Our friend Slasher Fred mentions, when you had directed Alone in the Dark, were you afraid that people would confuse it with the 1982 horror movie? Yeah, there was a horror movie, a cult favorite called Alone in the Dark. Had you ever seen the movie before?
Yeah. Was not based on the game. It was, that is the thing with a title like this. Alone in the Dark is kind of a random title. It can be the video game, or it can be, anybody can make a film, name it Alone in the Dark. It's not a property like Postal, something, or Bloodrayne, where they immediately would connect it to it. Bless you. Right. And then, no, I was not really scared about it. It was 20 years later when I did the film. So, everybody knows that we would do it based on the game, so that was okay.
Yeah. Okay. Dark Marv wants to ask another question. He knows that you're working on the documentary. But as far as feature films go, what feature films are you working on in the future?
Yeah, I have two films I'm working parallel on and see what can go first. The one's name is Kingmaker. It's in South Africa, and it's basically a guy gets blackmailed into killing people because they have his sister hostage. So, and he basically has to initialize a coup against the government in South Africa. What he doesn't know, because he just gets a random list, you have to kill this person, this person, this person, and it gets completely out of hand and run against the time. So that is Kingmaker. And then I have another film, Salem Watts, what I basically wrote with Wesley Snipes in my brain to bring him back in a real action film. And like, that could be his John Wick, basically. And Wesley Snipes got the script. I'm contact to his agent, and I hope that she will make him read the script, and he will do it. So the times also are kind of over where I just can randomly offer money. Like that's the thing. It's like I need also actors, they believe in a project together with me and make it happen with me. If I go to Netflix and say, look, I have Salem Watts, great film about a guy in the Bronx, and he has to fight basically organized crime. They say, yeah, and who plays the lead?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is the thing. It's like if I say Wesley Snipes, I have a good shot. But if I say, I don't know, I still have to find the actor, then they say, come back when you have the actor. It's the chicken and the egg situation. So, and I think a lot of actors now, they're in a good position to make things happening. But with Wesley Snipes specifically, I think he's a great actor. I think he's one of the few, he was in jail and all that stuff, but I think the people want to have him back.
I do too. I know I do.
I would love to have a real film, what Blade was or whatever, like where you feel like, wow, he's back, and he's fit. He's not like, he didn't turn like super fat or whatever. He's not able to play an action guy anymore. So he totally can do it. And I hope he will say or listen to us here right now and says, look, I will read it. I give it a shot. And maybe we can do this film together. That would be great.
Okay, we got another question here from Ben Johnson. Let's see. Low key, can we talk about the genius notion of shooting 3 movies at one time for 3 completely different audiences using the same locations? Yeah, I mean,
that was the Bloodrayne thing, the Bloodrayne 3 and Bloodrayne and Auschwitz.
Okay. You know what? That I probably should have brought that up sooner, but you know what? I'm going to save that for a private because I want to talk to you about that. Mimi, I want you to ask us ask the last question of the show.
Well, I still have quite a few questions, and the one that I really wanted to ask
you. Let's go with the questions, and I will do faster answers, basically. Yeah.
Well, I guess the first major big one that is kind of a question for more me, maybe other directors as well, but is how do you prep a good pitch and how do you secure a pitch when you do need like major funding?
Yeah, I mean, what we I have people like working with me on it. But when we have a script, we always then boil it down and do kind of a pitch deck to it with a synopsis and photos, visuals, mostly now because it's all digital, just a PDF file in the end. And you send the pitch first before you send the script to get the attention. You ask, can I present the script based on this pitch deck? So, and normally you will see, like, if they're interested, they will want the script, and if not, then it was just at least they never got the script and could steal the idea from you. So that is a risk too, what happened more and more. Yeah, and then it's what I saw in the last few years is that in Europe, the people and the TV channels and the streamers are more open also for independents to just listen to them, to just give it a shot, to read something. In Hollywood, it's very tough. you know, because it's just most of them, the Americans don't want to say no. So then they say nothing. And you never hear back, right? So because they don't want to pass on a big success in the end, you know, so they're very careful with answering at all. And so when you don't know anybody there who you can personally get to, the chance that they really respond to whatever you sent them is very low. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also interested in asking, how do you find a good producer? How do you know that the right producer is right for that project?
Yeah, that's also not easy. I mean, I worked a lot in Canada with Sean Williamson and Dan Clark on most of, like, In the Name of the King and so on, but they turned all into basically major producers now. And if I make a $4 million film or whatever, they're just not doing it. You know, they're my friends, but they're not like spending so much time and effort, and because they got bigger things to fish, basically, you know. So it's kind of like strange that a lot of people, in a way I made, they have major careers in their jobs and very good careers, and yeah, and then of course they would always help me, but they wouldn't commit for 6 months with shitty pay to do a shoot in South Africa, for example, right? But the thing why I want to do something in South Africa is because I love Tunnel Rats and Darfur, shooting there with Chris Rowland, and I love South Africa as a country. It's super nice, you know. The light is great. The crews are very, very motivated to work. They had like really high motivation to work on Tunnel Rats, on Darfur, and it was always a good feeling doing things there. In Eastern Europe, in Bulgaria and Romania, Croatia, where I shot, it was always this kind of like, you felt you're a slave driver. You know, you felt that you abused the crew because they got so shitty pay, right? But it's also like, you are on a budget too. You cannot just go and say, I pay you the same rates I would pay somebody in England or in Canada. So, and that kind of feeling was there overwhelming. And then, as I said, that the production companies in these countries, they're also kind of fraud, most of them. So they try whatever to steal the tax returns and everything. And so it was not so, it was good to shoot there in a way financially, but it was also kind of bad to shoot there. So, yeah. But I can, like, whenever, if you have a concrete project, whatever, I can definitely give you advice. You know, like Patrick can, I think you have my email or whatever. So, you know, so, and then can always ask me. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Great. Thank you so much, Uwe. Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Well, you know, this whole interview was totally worth it. See, I love it when you can connect to, you know, peers together like this, you know, because you're an old hand at this, Uwe. Mimi's just starting out, and you know, and you guys can talk and interact. I love it. I think that's just amazing. You have a lot to offer, Uwe, and people just need to open up their ears to hear it. Okay. Let's see. You got some more questions, Mimi?
I think nah, I don't think so. I was gonna say, what do movies mean to you, but I feel like you've said this over a bunch of different questions already.
Yeah. So when that is live now, right? So, and then you still tape it or whatever, and you post it somewhere, and then I can repost it too. Is that also happening? Okay.
Yeah. After I put I'm going to put Mimi's socials in here too. I'll put the rest of yours in, and then I'll tighten it up a little bit, and then I will send this to you. I guess I'll send this to you through your Facebook. I'll send you the link to your Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. I can repost it.
You can go ahead and just copy and paste and share it on out. I want to say thank you for coming out and hanging out with us, Uwe. This has been a real honor. I never thought I'd be able to interview somebody like on your level. So I'm very honored, and thank you so much for coming out and answering the questions. including the one I've been holding on to for 8 years.
Okay.
Let's see. And also, this will not be your only interview in our community. We will be getting more Uwe Boll because the Friendly Men, who I must thank for this thanks for this interview, and not only thank for this interview, but thank you for they postponed their interview for us to do our live one. So I really do appreciate that. My hats off to James and Ben, Jonas and Mark and Ant for doing that. Their review is going to be coming out very shortly on the Friendly Men channel, and that will also be in the description box below.
Perfect.
Before I get out of here, I'll let you know that we will be back on Tuesday. We will be back on Tuesday with filmmaker Andrew Jara. He will be talking with us about his new movie, The Empty Space. On Wednesday, do you have a calendar, Uwe? Do you work off a calendar?
I have a calendar. Look, we are old-fashioned people. So it's like,
Mimi, do you have a calendar, Mimi? Hell yes! Look at that! Look at her go!
Oh yeah, crossed out. Yeah.
Most people, when you tell them that you work off a calendar, they're like, "What's a calendar?" Look at that! Oh my gosh! Yeah, I can't go anywhere without this. I gotta have a calendar. So the Tuesday, Andrew Jar will be here at 8 p.m. On the 21st, we will be welcoming in brand new starlet Lydia Helen will be here with us at 8 p.m. She's gorgeous. She's absolutely gorgeous. New movie called The Little Mermaid. We'll be talking about that and her career. And then on the 22nd, we have two shows on Thursday the 22nd. We're heading back to Mimi's territory. We're going back to the UK as we'll be talking to film director Rick Langan, actor Alex Butler, and our very good friend Kelly Goody Price will be with us on the 22nd. That will be at 2 p.m. and then we'll be coming back here 8 o'clock to talk to film director Asif Akbar. His new movie Mojave Diamonds just dropped, starring Shale Sonnen and Donald the Cowboy Cerrone. I think the MMA fighters are the new action stars, by the way, Uwe.
Yeah. I know.
All right. That's it for us. I want to thank the chat for coming out there and knocking it out. Awesome. Oh, that's right. Yes. And yes. Weston Cage is also in Mojave Diamonds. And that is also Nick's son. He's starting to make his way through Hollywood. We will be talking about Weston's performance as well. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out. You two guys stay right where you're at. I'm going to say goodbye to the chat. And thank you so much. Love you all. See you Tuesday. Peace.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, this always happens. There we go.